It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, as Janet does every week, she gives us this most awesome introduction with Glenn Boblitz, and 30 seconds in, I managed to take it off the rails. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning. I stay off the rails, but that's a different story.
So what are we talking about today, friend?
Well, what's on everybody's mind, and that's their gardens, you know, whether you're doing your last minute cleanups or
Right.
you rototilled it or plowed it or whatever you're doing. But some people don't have that kind of room.
Right.
Well, in fact, a lot of people don't have that kind of room, or they want to get back into it. Whatever the reason, they tend to want to start out small because I just want some tomato plants or I want some cucumbers.
Right.
And with all the recalls, have you seen all the recalls that have come through in the past 3 months? Huge recalls. I mean, these are not just small little one-item things.
Sure.
They're saying all of this, all of that. And the whole world seems to be on fire.
I know.
And we're talking about gardening, but, you know, can't do nothing about that, so we'll go to the gardening part. Square foot gardening, whether it's 1,000 square foot or which is a darn good garden, or just a 4x8 raised bed.
Okay.
It's all good. Grow something. And they're promising some pretty high prices this year. Now, we all had hopes that the inflation was going to just drop as far as food goes.
Right.
You know, and everything was going to be all right now that Trump's in. Well, you can see that, you know, he's kind of stirring the pot a little.
Oh, my gosh.
In every direction.
Yes.
But everything he's done has been for America first.
Yep.
So the prices are not going to come down.
Right.
And guess what? In my opinion, I'll put up with that little bit of prices to fix it.
Exactly. And we should do a whole show, not call it sustainable living, call it off the rails politics. But for something to get better, many times the sacrifice, do you think if you and I had credit cards that were maxed out and we have all kinds of things around our home that those cards paid for, you know, now, you know, the old chickens have come home to roost,
Yes.
so to speak. Now I'm not buying anything else because I got to pay for what's sitting around. And that means I'm going to go without. And
Right.
people don't understand. We will have to sacrifice to turn things around. And it's going to hurt for a little while. Of course, the media is going to say, see, Trump's policies, they're hurting us even worse than Biden.
Well,
Okay.
there is some new pain. That's a fact. But we're not being robbed
Exactly.
from every direction, and that's kind of what has happened. And things are gonna change.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some pain, but somebody else is going to take some pain too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
not just the American taxpayer. But regardless of that, we only have a finite amount of money to spend at the grocery store,
Right.
or at the clothing store, whatever it is. We could probably make our own clothing. We'd have a bad fashion statement, but we can grow some food.
Well, and I'm curious, how many do you encourage people to track what the bounty's been, so they can kind of at the end of the season say, I spent $13 in seeds.
Right.
My bounty was worth, $50, for example.
My wife likes to track on a calendar.
Okay.
Now that does two things. It gives you the date at which things happen. And my suggestion is buy the big calendars because it's more room
you
to
can
write in. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But she will put on there. We put a sulfur spray on the orchard on this date, and had to buy a gallon of this fertilizer amendment, whatever it was, all on that date, planted on this date. It came up on this date, so you can have your own historical data. Every area and climate is a little different. You can actually have microclimates within the same county. If you get over around the lake, the temperatures seem to stay a little cooler, but it also stays more moist over
Right.
that area. So all that kind of thing goes back to watering and
Sure.
and germination and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're talking about. So documenting it is very good. She's really big on how many pounds did we get this year of tomatoes,
Right.
which is going to equate to how much salsa we got, you know.
Right.
And wow, if we expanded out, we could do enough salsa for our little group. So we all think about that and go, okay, you know, let's do that.
Sure.
And that's how it happened 2 years ago. We said, you know, we're really doing well on these tomatoes. Let's have a salsa day. So we all got together and made salsa. And I encourage you all to do that too, to help one another. And it's much easier to do a group canning than it is by yourself.
Okay.
It's not quite as boring
Right.
as watching water boil.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that we were doing and marking down and planning for.
Right.
I always like to plan one season ahead. You don't want to just jump into something and go, oh, I want to do this. Well, should have planned that.
Right.
So your calendar will help you do that, or your journal, or your logbook, whatever you're doing is write that stuff down. This year things are going to be more expensive for you. But there are alternatives to fertilizer. I mean, fertilizer is going to get really expensive this year.
Okay.
It is. I mean, it took a big jump since COVID. You know, COVID, it went from $11 for a 50-pound bag to $20. You know, it is what it is. Oil prices are going back up, and you know you can't blame that on Trump. You know, but it just the world's in flux at the moment.
It is. So square footage.
Square foot gardening. You know, you don't have the space to do these one giant gardens, but you know you got a flower bed. Unless it's got a bunch of bushes in it, well, plant in between the bushes. Some plants like that.
Right.
In square foot gardening, the idea is not to have big rows where you can drive a tractor through or run a wheelbarrow through. It's just if you have a 1 square foot, you can plant a little denser. If you just took radishes or lettuce and just broadcasted a 1 foot square, you'll get a concentrated area of radishes, and you just pull them out and thin them out as you need. That's the idea, is use every square foot you possibly can. So that's one way of doing it. You can go a little bigger and go to a raised bed. Raised beds were typically done, especially like at Monticello. It was a rock ledge, so water would just sit there. It would not drain.
Yeah.
So he raised the beds. And if you've ever been there, you know, that is so cool. The whole place, that whole terrace is done that way.
Right.
So knowing that, it has to be fairly thick. So you're going to have to bring in soils. And that's what most people say. I just don't know how to get my soils right. But I can go to a garden center or to a landscaper and say, I need good garden soil. And they're actually making garden soil with the garden in mind. It used to be lawn care stuff where you bring in a little topsoil.
Right.
And it was just ground up topsoil that got dry and had big clumps in it, and they would screen it. And you would put that down, and the grass would grow really well. Well, that's not what a garden needs. You know, garden needs a little different stuff. You know, it needs a higher carbon content.
Right.
Needs a good drainage soil. So they said people will pay for that because they could look right over at one of the home centers, the garden centers, and go, wow, people coming out of there 20, 30 bags of garden soil. So they said, we can do this in bulk.
Right.
So you can take your truck over and the guy put 4 scoops in, enough to do a whole 4x8 bed.
Right.
And boom, you have good soil. Don't have to do all that hard work and doing the testing and stuff. You already started out with good soil, not the clay, red Virginia clay.
Right.
So you may have to do that. The only problem you're going to have is the grass.
Okay.
Here's a method that I've used, and it does work. you can take your weed eater and burn the grass. Just take it down to the nub, rake all that off,
Okay.
and put cardboard down. When you put the cardboard down, it acts like a barrier, a temporary barrier, that will allow water to go penetrate through because
Down in.
it's going to be in pieces anyway.
Okay.
Then you put that good garden soil that you got from your local garden center on top of that soil.
About how thick? Inch?
Well, no, you need about 4 to 5 inches
Okay.
of good garden soil because
Right.
most plants are going to go down at least 6 inches. So
Okay.
4 to 6 inches at least, depending on what you plant on.
And once that moisture hits the cardboard, it's going to begin to break down some?
Well, it would take about 2 years to break
Oh,
down.
really? Okay.
And that'll choke out the grass.
Okay, I see.
The grass needs sunshine or it'll just die.
Okay.
So there you are.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a 4x8 little bed that we've burnt the grass off, and I don't mean with fire, I mean with your weed eater. Raked off, cardboard down, and build a frame around it. The frame ought to be about 10 to 12 inches high. If you can't get 10 to 12 inches high and just have a couple landscape timbers, which will bring you up about 8 inches.
Okay.
Well, just hump the center up a little bit to get that thickness of mulch on top of that dirt. So just like a flower bed, you were planting a flower bed, you would mulch your flower bed. Well, not only does it make it look nice and neat, now you don't have to do near as much weeding and the water control. It will maintain the water much better if you have that thick layer of mulch on top.
Let's talk about the mulch just for a second because, I mean, certain mulch we don't want, right?
You could put green mulch on it or wood chips.
Okay.
You just can't put that stuff right up next to your plants.
Okay.
It will cause a nutrient issue.
Right.
The nitrogen gets tied up because the microbes are wanting to break things down, and they tie up the nitrogen temporarily for the decomposition process. We're going off into science class.
Right.
So you can use that, but again, you would probably want a good composted mulch first.
Okay.
Then put the green mulch on top. Now, the green mulch does a couple things. The green mulch will keep weeds and seeds from flying in and starting in your brand new bed.
Right.
If a seed were to come in the green mulch, it may germinate because there's moisture there,
Okay.
but there's no nutrients available. Why? Because it has nitrogen tie-up. So the little
Gotcha.
seed germinates, sprouts, and dies because there's no nutrient. Well, you got to be careful because if your plants are in there, your new tomato plant, pepper plant, and you've plopped it right in all that green mulch, it's going to suck the nitrogen out of that nice soil that you just put in,
Okay.
at least temporarily. It may take 2 to 3 years for that mulch to break down. So my suggestion is you go cardboard, good garden soil, a layer of compost, good composted mulch. And you can get that also. Now, that's just a barrier between the green mulch and your garden soil.
Okay.
So any of the nitrogen tie-up that occurs is going to occur in the mulch layers. So that mulch layer that is decomposted, it's going to tie that up some, but it'll start breaking down over time. Meanwhile, your plant is in the garden soil and not being affected by it, so you need that barrier. After 1 or 2 years of you doing these raised beds, then it's just a matter of dressing the mulch on top, whether you're using green wood chips or whatever you have available. Leaves is another good thing. Then the process just starts breaking down slowly throughout the entire mulch that you're putting on it. So if you were to do a cross-section cut, you could see that black rotted layer of my first year.
Okay. Yeah.
A semi-rotted layer for the second year, and green mulch for the third year. So this is not a quick fix thing if you're using green wood chip type mulch. Or you can just go buy composted mulch every year and keep adding that, which steps you a year ahead. You can also gather your leaves. You can gather leaves right out of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
The best stuff to get out of the woods is scrape back this year's leaves and get the leaves that are already have the microbes in them.
Yeah.
Those are your best for your stuff. And they look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Water it down heavy and it'll just kind of knit back together. It's the darndest thing.
Mm.
And that's the mycorrhizals doing that. And we've talked about that.
Yeah.
So you're adding the good stuff that the woods has.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get your first raised bed going. And after that, you can get creative. You can go online and find all these really cool designs and materials to make out of. I met a guy, he just drug some logs out of the woods.
Right.
Some of them were half rotten,
Really?
but they looked cool.
Yeah.
So that's how he did his. You can also do a liner on the inside so it doesn't rot your logs, just a plastic liner. You don't want to make a swimming pool in there. Don't put the plastic on the bottom or you'll drown your plants.
Oh, okay.
So that's just to help protect your investment of the bed itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of doing a planting bed.
Okay. Let's take a break here. What else do you have?
Well, you have container gardens and that kind of thing, and there's different ways, different containers, and we'll address some of the pros and cons of those.
Okay, I know we talked about buckets a few weeks ago. Maybe that'll come back around. We're with Glenn Ballblitz. This is Sustainable Living Made Easy.
Get ready for a new soundtrack for your life. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake. It's music that'll take away your troubles for a while.
That's what I'm talking about!
Wake up with Janet and Mark on the Morning Jam. They'll keep you informed and encouraged, and we all need more of that.
They say jam.
You're invited to be a part of the Doc Rock family, your feel-good station. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake.
We're back with more Sustainable Living with Glenn Ballblitz. Be sure to look for Sustainable Living on Facebook for even more information and follow-up conversations with other members. Now, here's your host, Mark Lamb.
Back with Glenn. All right, we talked about some of the portable things that we can do. You know, a quick question about using a metal, a galvanized, and this may have been a question I've asked you before, so forgive me. But, you know, sometimes these people have these big galvanized tubs they use to wash their dog. They don't have a dog anymore. Hey, can I plant something in there? Is there drawbacks in using a galvanized metal? Does it leach anything that could be harmful or whatever?
Yeah, the galvanized, because it's a metal and it has some poisonous properties to it.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't use it. It just means you have to put a liner
I was just
on
thinking
the
of-
walls of that container.
Right.
Then you're okay.
And then you need holes in the bottom of that too, right? If it's a raised.
If it's a water trough type tub that is watertight, what you have is a pond. You have a metal pond,
Right.
and it will drown your plants. You know, sometimes we get some pretty torrential rains, and you forgot to go out there and pull the plug. Well, you drowned your plants.
Right.
It would break my heart to drill a hole in a big metal tub, being
know.
that I do a little farming, and I go,
Sure.
wow, that's a $300 tub that I just drilled a hole in. But a lot of them were stuck out in the field, and the farmer forgot about them, or you know, and it just got beat up and not used anymore. And they'll have holes in them anyway, so okay, we'll go there.
Yeah.
But you can see that any kind of material you can get a hold of that'll create a wall and contain your little new garden, that's acceptable. That's a container. So there's also cardboard tubes in the construction industry. It's called sonotube. You ever see it?
Oh, for like they use them sometimes for a culvert or whatever.
Right.
And they pour columns in them
and
too.
they pour a column of concrete, and they're not cheap if you buy a whole 12-foot section, but you know, they come in various sizes.
You just cut them in half?
Yeah, you just cut them things.
Open it up and you've got a half round.
Well, I was thinking more totally round.
Oh, totally round. Okay.
Cut a piece of the tube off like a biscuit, you know, just
Okay,
whack
yeah.
a piece off, set it there. And here's the thing, if you paint that, they last quite a while.
Okay.
They'll last 3 or 4 years.
Really? Okay.
And that's a temporary thing. You know, if you got better plans later on, but you want something now, that'll do.
And that'll keep everything separate
And
from
that
each other too.
Yeah, and that keeps everything in a nice little container.
Yeah.
Now, if you just don't have that, well, I don't have that ground, that much area. All I have is a balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've used window boxes for years,
yeah.
little squares. They hang over the railings, or they'll hang them from the beam above or the ceiling. Get a couple eye bolts and
Go
get
to
that
it.
right. Hang baskets. You go to one of the local garden centers, and this time of year, you know, there it is, a $20 basket of flowers. Well, why not have a $20 basket of strawberries or tomatoes? Tomatoes will droop down over a hanging basket and continue to grow. You just have to make sure that it doesn't get so heavy that it either tears the basket off, because you know one plant can put out 60 pounds, and they're not rated for that unless you buy one that is. Some of them have the little wire frames on them. So there's lots of options. You can go on Etsy and see all the options. You know,
Right.
That's how I'm not above stealing an idea. So I go
Neither am
on,
I.
see all the little cool ideas and go, I have something very similar to that, and that's what I'll do. So, you know, get a little creative, because otherwise you're going to pay quite a bit for it. But you need to grow something, folks. Every pound of tomato that you grow is $1.50 in your pocket. Same way with vertical growing for potatoes. Have you seen any of those little kits that they get at the wire basket lined with straw? And as the potato starts to grow, you just keep adding more dirt, more dirt, more dirt. If you go online and check that out, it's a pretty cool system. I've done it once before, but never went back to it. It's more convenient for me to do it a little larger scale.
Yeah, that was kind of a little fun thing. People were buying bales of hay.
Yeah, you know, that isn't straw bale gardening. That is another cool little idea, and it looks pretty cool. But it doesn't last very long. You know,
Right.
about 3 years, about all you're going to get out of
Okay.
it. And a darn bale of straw is not cheap
No,
anymore.
it's not cheap.
I mean, if you could get them $2 a bale back like we used to, okay, I'd do that. But
Right.
now at $6, $8, $10 a bale, you
yeah.
just can't afford to do that. You need something a little more permanent.
Sure.
So for the people that don't have that area to do a big straw bale pyramid or just in straw bale line of them,
Yeah.
the garden centers have all these little cool hanging baskets that hang over the railings, window boxes, that kind of thing. All containers have an issue with water drainage. When you buy these things, if they don't have a place for the water to go out, you're going to have to drill a hole.
All right.
If you got a handy little person that can drill a hole for you, or you do it yourself, but it's got to drain, folks. The flip side of that is it's not going to hold as much water. So you may have to water a little more, but you know, make it a routine. Every day go out, check it out. Is the soil still moist? I'm good for today. If it's not, you need to add the water. And things don't need to be drowned in water. If it's moist, that's good enough. You do not want to have your plants standing in water. They have to breathe oxygen through their root system. Just the opposite. They breathe out CO2, or take in CO2 and breathe that oxygen to the leaves. Same way with the root system. It takes in oxygen, breathes out the CO2, and sequesters it as a carbon in the ground. So they need to be able to breathe, and that's why the composition of the soil is important, because like carbon allows aeration in the soil. So this blend that you're going to buy already has that in there. So that's why it works so well.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
Okay.
On plastic pots, choosing a plastic pot, don't buy the black ones. It will cook will cook the root system.
Right.
That root system on most vegetable plants needs to be about 70 degrees, and that's about it. Anything higher kind of stresses the plant out a little. Get up to 80 degrees and everything quits.
Really just shuts
It just
down.
says it's too hot. I mean,
Jeez.
if you've ever gone outside in August and say, okay, you know, I'm going to weed the garden at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you go, nope, it's too hot. I'm done.
Right.
Plants do the same thing. It's too hot. I'm done. I'm not going to create photosynthesis.
Okay.
I'm not going to put out any more energy towards the tomato. I am going to just sweat. And they sweat through their leaves just like we sweat through our skin. They sweat through their leaves.
Okay.
So they're trying to get rid of heat. That black pot will generate so much
Even
heat
more, yeah.
that your plant will stay stressed out. You go, why isn't it producing? It's too darn hot.
Yeah.
White is a good thing, of course. So
Okay.
you can do that. If you can put it in a partially shaded where you get a lot of morning sun, but not much afternoon sun. Some plants like that, some do not. You know, some of the plants require full sun all day. But you can have parts of a shade cloth put over them. They make a white, very light shade cloth, which is easily put up. It's kind of like a, I don't know, almost a hair net that you would see somebody put on their hair at the restaurants, you know. It's that kind of material. Now that helps, keeps that infrared coming down from the sun from cooking your plants.
Okay.
Now, you wouldn't want to close it up like an envelope, but you can put it to where it gives a little partial shade, and they'll do fine that way.
So you're saying too, with the cooking of the plant, it doesn't kill the plant. It just puts it on pause.
Yep, it just stresses it out, and the whole principle here is to get food out of this thing, to get it to
Right.
produce a fruit or some type of crop.
Sure.
Now, you might get a lot of leaves, but all of a sudden there's no fruit or very little fruit. Well, that's probably because it was stressed out.
Okay.
Plants stress out pretty easy. You know, they're kind of whiny and, well, actually kind of viney, but we won't go there. So stressing your plant out is not good. It's not good for animals. It's not good for any of this stuff. You know, you have to have correct amount of water, correct amount of sunshine, all that kind of stuff. So you may have to do some adjusting to help the little guys out. So now that you understand you can't have this big black pot sitting on your patio, and especially on concrete, because the concrete over the summer days starts to warm up also.
Okay.
So now the concrete is up to 85, 90 degrees. You walk outside your bare feet and go, wow, that hurts my feet because it's hot. Well, the plants are going to say the same thing. Hey, get me off the concrete because it's hot. Now, you could put some type of insulating material down, whether it be, you know, cardboard, a stack of cardboard, whatever, however you can do it. The other thing is you could put pots one up next to another, so they shade the next guy's root system. So if you can imagine, it's rather having strawberry plants or tomato plants in these pots or buckets, all in their little separate spot, getting sun from all the angles, heating the bucket up or the basket, rather than having them up close together. So you could do a grouping, a compacted basket or bucket garden. You could do that, and you'll end up shading the buckets or the baskets, whatever you use.
Yeah.
So one shades the other. Now, you can rotate them around because you pick them up because they're in a container.
Right.
So there's a little more work to this than just, you know, plopping it down in a bucket. There is these netted baskets that they make. It is a container, but it's made out of cloth.
Okay.
And it's a very durable landscape type cloth. The good thing about that stuff breathes.
Right.
It will also dissipate some of the water out of there. And as that water evaporates, you get cooling, evaporative cooling. The only problem with that is you have to water it more because it's evaporating the water out. But they do very well, and it a lot of hard bottom plastic buckets, that kind of thing, cause things to get root bound. The roots go down and they're looking for oxygen is what they're doing. So they go to the side of the bucket, they hit the bucket, they make a a left turn or a right turn. Now there's like NASCAR in there. Them things are going round and round in your bucket. And you'll find it at the end of the year when you pull it out. You go,
And just
wow,
like the other day,
it's root bound.
Chris Bell, the Toyota driver, wins.
Yeah. The plant expended a lot of energy trying to find oxygen.
Right.
So the whole thing will be just packed with roots, but I didn't get much. Well, that's because it was stressed.
Right.
So these net bags do very well, and most of them are black.
Oh, okay.
So you have to do basically the same thing. You may have to group some together,
Yeah.
move them around. Everybody gets a chance in the sunshine, but they do very well. A lot of industrial greenhouses that are growing hothouse tomatoes that are actually growing in soils use these methods. They use these netties.
Okay.
For starting plants for trees, they use those also. And all you have to do when you get your tree, maybe in a 2-gallon netty pot, is cut the thing off, peel it away, and there you are. Some of them are even biodegradable. You just plant them all.
Oh,
so you don't.
okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't like that.
Oh, okay.
Because anything that my plant has to work extra hard to bust through,
Okay. All right.
I want it to take off immediately. So I always cut mine off. So
Every time we end up talking about this kind of stuff, I'm thinking the plant is just like a person.
Absolutely.
I mean, the
It
struggles.
has needs.
and-
It's a little whiny.
Right. And I mean, it, just like us, if you sit here and yell at me long enough, I'm going to shut down. If you sit and I can't function
Stress me
correctly,
out.
I'm just going to shut down.
Well, here's one you probably didn't know. Tomatoes don't get along with anybody. That's true. Always plant your tomatoes away from all other
Everything
vegetables.
else.
They don't get along.
How about that?
Some plants give off gases that cause the other vegetable not to do well.
Okay.
It's like having, a gassy guy in the elevator. That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So same way here, but the tomatoes do not get along with anybody. Then you have some that get along very well with one another.
Right.
The three sisters, that's the corn, beans, and squash. That's why you plant them together. One helps the other.
Right.
So you were talking about comparing them to the humanity. They have social organizations too. Then we've talked about the microbes.
Right.
That's a total different species that is in there helping out and communicating. So you were more right than what you actually knew when you said that. You have different species, not just plants helping one another, but another species helping another species. We probably could take a good lesson from that because they make a win-win deal for one another.
Right. Right.
So how it is in the garden ought to be how it is in your house. If you want your clothes washed, you will go out and gas the car up and change the oil, yes? Of course you will, if you want clean clothes and peace in your house. Same thing.
Yeah.
So the plants have figured it out. We're just now getting there. But back to our containers. Another one would be terracotta. The red terracotta clay pots do almost the exact same thing that the netty bags do, with the exception there's not a good oxygen transfer with them. So you should definitely have a good carbon content, so that carries the air and the drainage.
Right.
Almost all terracotta pots are going to have that big hole in the bottom.
Okay.
So you put a little rocks in there, and the thing about the terracotta pot is you don't want it to be glazed. If you have a glazed terracotta pot, that seals the outside, and it will not evaporate the water off to keep it cool.
Okay.
They are not the cheapest thing anymore. It used to be
Interesting.
a lot of people used to throw their own pots. You know what I mean by throwing your own pot? That's it. A potter's wheel. When he makes a pot or a bowl or whatever, he throws the clay onto the wheel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where that term came from. But used to be a lot of people that made those things. And there was always a potter. Not anymore. Just like there was always a blacksmith. Not anymore.
Yeah, right.
So they were cheap because they made them out of good old Virginia clay. So they're pretty expensive. So that may not be an option for most people, but they look cool. You can get some really nice designs. If you just don't want a Home Depot bucket on your backyard, in your back patio, you can get one of these. But you have to take them in during the winter because they will freeze and bust.
Brutal, yeah.
So there's pros and cons to all container type gardening, and if that's all you have, that's what you do.
Okay.
Whatever works out for you. So let's try to grow something in something somewhere. And if you don't do that, find somebody that is growing and help them, sharing the bounty. That's what we're doing.
Well, Glenn, as usual, thank you.
Thank you.
Good way to end it on Virginia clay.
Yeah, good old Virginia clay.
We'll see you next time. If they have any questions for you, Glenn, or they want a topic that they want you to discuss, what would you like for them to do?
Put it right on Sustainable Living Made Easy with Glenn Bob. Let's go right on to Facebook and put me out a post, ask me a question, make a suggestion.
Okay. Or you can text us, 434-248-0704. That's 434-248-0704. See you next time.
Thank you.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.